I mentioned philosophy and the sciences have a common origin. And here's the way to explain it. I mean, first of all, here what I've done is I've given you a list of all the things that are taught at Kingsborough today, in Brooklyn circa, which means around 2013. Mathematics, biology, chemistry, marine biology. You can go through the list. I've divided them up, and you'll see why I've divided up in this way. Now, what's interesting is when you're teaching at the college level, like Kingsborough, the degree that they would like the instructors to have, and in fact it's usually required in the city university, or it's required for certain positions in the city university, is that you have something called a PhD. Well, what is a PhD? Well, they talk about a doctorate. What's the PH for? It's Doctor of Philosophy. Some of the instructors at college level have another degree. It's called an EDD, a Doctor of Education, but many have Doctor of Philosophy. So, for example, the person you're taking mathematics from might very well have a Doctor of Philosophy in the field of mathematics or in the field of biology. Or, as a matter of fact, I have a Doctor of Philosophy in the field of philosophy. But we see there are very, very, very many subjects that we deal with today at Kingsborough. Now, if we went back 2,500, 3,000 years to about 400 BCE in Athens, here's the way the subjects would be divided up. If you notice over here on the right, subjects did not exist. That is, computer information systems didn't exist back in those days. Anthropology, didn't know about it. Biotechnology, didn't know about it. Now there are a whole lot of subjects right next to that where there was no formal education in which they were taught. There was nothing that even resembled school. Rather, if you wanted to become an artist, let's say, and it still works like this today to some extent, even though we do teach art here at Kingsborough, you do an apprenticeship, you work with an artist, you work with a photographer, you learn how to do it. You work with an accountant, and you learn how to do accounting. But when you go back to ancient Greece, when you look at the subjects that are all the way in that left column, we see physical education, exercise science, some of the things on the bottom. Well, they used to have gymnasiums. They had armies. They had people who studied, physical education, kept themselves fit. Now, one step up from that in that column, there were people who were scribes. They learned how to write. Literacy was not what it is today in the United States. Back in ancient Greece, 2,500 years ago, rather, there were certain people who learned the written language, wrote down laws, wrote down history, and they were studied as the kind of scribal arts. The interesting thing is those were really learned through an apprenticeship also. But when you look at it, most of the subjects that remain, things that we call sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, political science, if there was psychology, were all part of philosophy. In fact, philosophy, we'll see, started with just the quest of trying to understand the universe around us. So that's why, while defining biology or defining chemistry or nursing might be fairly easy, defining philosophy is a little bit harder, especially since the scope of what was involved in philosophy has changed over the last, certainly 2,500 years, and really it's changed radically over the last 500 or 600 years with the scientific revolution. Because you might have heard of a gentleman called Sir Isaac Newton, the man who discovered gravity when the apple reputedly hit him on the head. He held a chair at Oxford, which was a chair in natural philosophy, because even as recently as that, the 1500s, science was studied as part of philosophy. It's only since the scientific revolution that each science has developed its own methodology and has branched off. So this accounts for why there's a bit of confusion over what constitutes philosophy and why everybody who teaches various subjects at Kingsborough have a doctorate of philosophy. It still doesn't define philosophy. And what we're going to turn to now is a way to understand what philosophy is today and how it relates to the problems that we're going to be talking about in classical philosophy.